Welcome back to RSAC 2025. I'm Jackie McGuire, Practice Lead and Principal Analyst for Security at theCUBE. Hope you've been learning a lot today. I am here with Matt Radolec. He is the VP of Incident Response, Cloud Operations and Engineering for Varonis. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me on your show.
Awesome. So I know you've been, how many times have you been to RSA?
Oh, I can't even remember. Probably, let's say 6 or 7.
Okay, all right. Do you remember what your first year was?
Maybe 2019.
Okay, I think I'm about the same. This was my 4th or 5th, I think, so I don't feel like a new kid anymore.
Yeah, you've been here enough times that you have places you like to eat.
Yeah, and I know which places, north, south, east, and west.
Moscow North and Moscow South, yes.
It's always fun when you think you know where you're going and then you hit mission and you're like, I have taken a wrong turn somewhere.
This isn't where I parked my car, you
know?
Yeah.
Yeah. I also learned which hotels are at the top of the hill and which ones are not, because one year, I think my first year, I accidentally booked a hotel at the top of the hill and then decided it would be walkable because it was only half a mile, so that was fun.
Yeah.
All right, so you actually gave a keynote last year, right?
Yeah.
On preventing AI breaches, and then you were just saying, we were both commiserating, the opposite of commiserating. What would that be?
Celebrating. Yeah, we were celebrating.
We were celebrating that we actually get to do this for a living because you're doing another keynote this year, right?
Yeah, I am. I'm really excited. My keynote last year was on reducing the blast radius of AI, really drawing to the fact that a lot of people don't really realize how much data AI can access. And it's a lot,
yeah.
Right? A lot more than you might realize, and that's kind of the premise of AI, is if you get data security right, there's a lot of benefits, but if you get it wrong, there's a lot of risk.
Yeah.
But this year I'm going in a completely different direction.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the cybersecurity talent gap,
okay.
And how I really feel like that gamers are the most untapped talent pool in the workforce and are ripe for cybersecurity.
That's interesting.
And then we celebrated a little bit about gaming too, so I know I'm sitting across from a gamer.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of a nerd. I was your typical latchkey kid, so since the first Nintendo and Atari, I've been babysat by video games most of my childhood, and now I have two preteens and a teenager, and we all play Fortnite together.
Yeah,
so.
We're all gamers.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I definitely think there are lots of studies that show correlation between intelligence and gaming. So, so tell me, what do you think it is about gaming that makes people especially suitable for cybersecurity?
There's a couple of things. One is, gamers love to strategize. Mm-hmm. So they want to like come up with a plan to take down the boss, and they're also really adaptable, right? Like, I think of like shooting games, you have to be good with all the weapons.
Yeah.
Or RPG games, you have to play the different classes. You're not always a healer or a tank or a damage dealer. There's all these quests that you have to do. So gamers also love this sense of achievement. And so as a leader, if you learn how to use that, use those skills and that drive, you can really get a lot out of gamers. Also, gamers love to hustle. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, how many people do you know that could say they like binge gamed all night, right?
Yeah.
Well, now you just have to, it's our job as leaders to figure out how to make work feel that way and give your employees this sense of accomplishment or give them a quest to do, and you can get a lot out of gamers as a result.
Yeah, it's interesting because I think we often think of the internet generation as being wired for like rapid stimulation, but now that you think of, like when you mention that, I think we call it getting sweaty in Fortnite, where like gamers usually are really good at investing in something, an outcome, even if it means running all the way across the map.
Right.
The other thing is in a lot of games, so I play Fortnite, which I bring up, you have to work with strangers.
Right.
And sometimes you have to work with strangers you can't even communicate with.
Communication skills, nonverbal and verbal communication skills, or even like in games where you're alone.
Yeah.
Right, and you have to learn how to solve problems on your own and make decisions on your own. I think all these things, again, if channeled the right way, can help people make great employees. And as long as also, you recruit gamers and make them realize that like there's the work time and the gaming time and it doesn't bleed over too much.
Yeah. Well, and there's also a natural path to engineering. So I was sharing with you that during the pandemic, I got bored and decided to build a music festival in Minecraft.
Yeah, and you were on ESPN.
Yeah, I got an ESPN esports interview. That was pretty awesome.
I haven't been able to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and I have to say that it was also with, oh gosh, I'm going to blank on his name now. He was a big MMA commentator, and I was a huge MMA fan. Anyway, but yeah, so I think one of the interesting things to me with building that festival is I had to learn server architecture, because Minecraft servers, you like host your own servers for Minecraft, or you pay a server company. So we had to actually learn, and I was a data scientist, like I had only ever used Python really, and so all of a sudden I'm like knee deep in AWS architecture and syncing servers and creating API listeners to connect my ticketing platform to. Yeah, and I guess thinking about it, it's probably gaming that made me like, all right, it's just another challenge that I can accomplish, right?
Well, and it sounds like you also built a community.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So like one other thing that I've seen success with recruiting gamers is you can build a community of gamers and give people a way outside of work to connect with each other and build relationships, which gives them stronger team dynamics at work.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, if you're playing Call of Duty with someone after work, you got to work through all the communication issues that you have pretty quickly.
Or you get to virtually shoot them, I guess.
Right, right. A little bit of stress relief, maybe.
Yeah. It's sometimes why I like playing with my kids. So I'm like, I'll just take you in a video game and whoop your ass.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Better than the kinetic version.
Yeah. All right, so that's interesting. So one of the things that I've heard is that there's not necessarily there's not a skills gap. I guess there's not a talent shortage as much as there is a skills gap.
Correct.
So it's that most critical security functions need experienced security people, but there's a lot of very green security people rolling out of boot camps and colleges that don't have that practical experience. Do you think there's an opportunity to kind of gamify tier 1 SOC analysts?
That is entirely what my talk is about.
Yeah.
So the talk is called From Gamer to Leader.
Okay.
And the principle really here is that we as leaders have to create that skill gap, how to fill that skill gap. It's a lot like, and I'll use this analogy in my talk, if you play World of Warcraft or you've ever heard of an RPG game, where as you level up you get talent points to spend.
Yeah.
So you start as like a lowly level mage that can cast basic spells, but at the end you can like summon an elemental or something like that, and you are adorned in fire the whole time.
Yeah.
Right? But it takes a lot of questing and a lot of leveling up to get there. Well, it's our job as leaders to build that quest line, to hire these people that don't have certain skills and give them the experience or the objectives to build those skills. And sometimes it's time. Sometimes it's maybe like a capture the flag exercise or some type of cyber war games type of an event, or going to a training or training classes. Other times it's simply research projects. I can't tell you how often I'm running into organizations that have brand new at Kubernetes or at cluster and node management.
Yeah.
And their security people are like, well, that's not a server, but it's a server, but it's temporary. But how do I get events from something that doesn't exist anymore?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, let's start to think about that problem and how you're going to solve for that. And I think giving that type of a quest to a person is going to allow, just like you did with this architecture to create your Minecraft server, you learned a lot about AWS as a result of that. We have to create those moments.
Yeah.
It's our job as leaders to give people that path to achieve and level up and grow, and then you can reap the rewards at the end. The other thing though, I think, is it presents an opportunity is to give them the right tools. So, if you spend any time on the show floor, everybody's got an AI-powered toolkit. Well, that's like a mythical sword that you're going to give to your employees to make them better at their job. And if that helps them ask the right questions and develop those skills, everybody wins.
Yeah, otherwise they just become like the impact grenades in Fortnite.
Right, or
like,
NPCs,
what am I supposed to
right?
do with
Like
this?
they just kind of like run around and run their heads into the walls and don't really get anything accomplished. Nobody wants any NPCs on their team.
I work with those people.
Yeah, don't be an NPC.
Don't be an But that's actually one of the jokes between my husband and I, is we'll be walking through like the grocery store or something, and somebody will just do something exceptionally rude, and I'll be like, freaking NPCs.
Right. Or when you see someone that's like having a lapse,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, their controller disconnected.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Like you need to recharge those batteries. Okay, so I love this, and I'm thinking about 1,000 different ways we can use this, because it's funny I went to the Pima Community College, has this cyber warfare center in Arizona, and it's amazing. And these kids are so excited, these college kids. They are just passionate about what they do. Then you walk in a SOC and you talk to like a tier 2, tier 3 analyst, and they look like they've been beat with a baseball
Oh my
bat.
gosh, they're just worn out.
And so, yeah, I think if we could take more of the gamification into the security with these young, energetic kids that are like still, and it's more of the thrill of the chase than the grind of 10 million unanswered similars.
Yeah, but it's also incentive, right? Yeah. Like we need to move the incentive to closing the most alerts, or being the most accurate, or finding a threat. Like we need to reward the things, and again, create that quest line where at the end of it, they get something, they get some kind of benefit from it. I've even seen companies that give out like Legos or badges or coins. Those always have to be money, but money's a great way to incentivize a lot of people.
Yeah. Well, like at DEF CON, you always have a badge that you're incentivized to visit all the different villages because you get, you can either solder stuff onto it, you activate different parts of it. That's really interesting. Okay, so other than gaming, let's see, what are you, I guess, what are you, I don't want to say agentic AI, and you can't say agentic AI. Other than agentic AI, what are you hearing the most from CISOs now? So we covered the talent gap, and I think that's definitely something we need to address. But beyond that, what are you hearing from your CISOs that you interact with every day? I imagine you have a pretty unique perspective being in charge of incident response.
For sure. There's a balance between like enabling the business to adopt AI, we won't say agentic AI, but AI tools in general, but also using AI for defenders. And they're trying to say, well, how much of my time should I be spending preventing an AI breach or a breach caused by AI versus equipping my teams with the things that they need, you know, kind of like I always talk about the battle of the robots, right? Like you got to use AI to fight AI or you're kind of lagging behind. I also think that there's a growing compliance concern because you're now building models and training models that you don't, you know, could be non-determinative or it could be crossing geographic boundaries with particular types of information. So there's a lot of privacy conversations that are happening around things like, oh, could I mask the data, the sensitive stuff, so that I could maybe cross a geographic boundary with that data? Or do I have to rebuild the model in multiple places so that my employees of a global company can consume that? So there's a lot of conversations happening around that, but I mean, by far, everybody still cares about a data breach and is trying to avoid a data breach. Everyone I've talked to is concerned that there's too much data, it's getting shared in too many places, and people have too much access to it, and they want to avoid a data breach. And nobody has extra time or extra resources to be able to tackle that problem, and so they're looking for like innovative ways to solve for that, or ways to avoid, you know, explosion of cloud costs and cloud consumption without the benefit, but also, you know, without like changing their risk portfolio.
Yeah, I was just talking to one of the executives at a company who was talking about, oh, like you were just saying cloud costs. I think that's one of the interesting things with AI is that there is this kind of, what I always worry about is like what happens when my red team AI and my blue team AI start fighting each other and my Amazon bill is the thing that pays the price.
And Amazon wins.
Amazon absolutely wins. I will give them a shout out that when I was a data scientist, I made a $75,000 Kibana mistake and they did eat it for me, but but usually it was. I think we were spending enough at the time that it seemed like a good idea, but yeah, it's one of those things that I think people keep asking me in analyst briefings, when I'm doing analyst briefings, you know, or people asking you about, I'm like, I have companies that can't even get all their firewall logs in UTC. I have companies that don't even understand
the concept that the logs are happening at the same moment, but the timestamps are different, right? And then they're like in multiple time paradoxes trying to figure out an incident.
Or they don't know that GeoIP, most SIMs pull it on query. So if you pull a log, it's going to give you today's GeoIP, not when it was ingested.
But that same thing for host name resolution. So most of them are going to give you the host name that the IP has right now, not the one it had at the time frame of the event. So then you're just chasing ghosts the whole time. I'll give you another. You asked a question like, well, what else are people talking about? Another one I get asked a lot is like, how are the breaches happening? Like what is right now, last 2 weeks, top incidents that you see? There has been a shift. A lot of, I think, you know, in years past, we would talk about attackers breaking in. Zero-day exploits, you know, very, very targeted and crafty phishing ruses or masquerading as members of the help desk. Now we see them logging in. Right? They're harvesting credentials, they're reusing credentials, they're, you know, not even guessing passwords with like a brute force attack, they're just buying them on the dark web or even finding them. Like there's so much available for free now. And then they're simply reusing them. And you know, you think you have this ultimate defense with MFA, but it's not everywhere all the time, or people can succumb to MFA fatigue attacks. And the problem that they're exploiting is that a regular user has access to enough to monetize for a breach. So now instead of being worried about this like thing that's going to make your sock light up like a Christmas tree, you've got to find someone that simply reused their password somewhere, an attacker that logs in as them, accesses information and exploits information using normal user means, like They don't drop any code, they don't escalate any privileges, they send themselves an email on Gmail, or they use your own exchange to send
they geo-spoof,
they
so it looks like they're where you
so
are.
It looks like they're where the person is, and it's so easy to find out where people are, right? Like Instagram or whatever type of social media, just like a little bit of effort to do some layers of obfuscation. That's the number one threat that people are facing, is the impact of one user account getting compromised. Yes, certain companies, you still need to worry about APTs and nation state actors, right? Like I can't say that the banks.
If you're a utility, you should be worried about
big
PRC,
bank, right? Like you definitely, like this is not to say that's not where your top threat actor is. But the average company that comes to RSA, you need to be worried about password reuse. You need to be worried about how much someone can get to with a co-pilot or an agentic AI in your environment, and how much data that exposes. And yes, also these other threats, but focus on the things that are likely to happen and likely to be impactful, because the regulators don't care.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess that brings up a good next question. Thank you for teeing it up. So what's going on at Varonis? How are you helping customers address this right now?
Yeah, so first and foremost, and I've talked a lot about like the gamification of things, we have an AI security analyst that helps our analysts. And you actually have to be better than the AI analyst to stay an analyst at Varonis. So you have to be more accurate and faster than the AI analyst is in order to kind of maintain your career status on our managed detection and response team. So we're using AI for good. We've also put AI into our products, from doing AI-based classification. We also have an AI-based search for natural language querying. These things are all helping people to protect their data in more places. But a big part of what we do is we are tackling this data security problem with automation. So we collect the right ingredients to be able to do things like reduce that blast radius, or what I talked about before. We'll find where a company has sensitive data, we'll find all the ways that it's exposed, and we'll use automation to actually reduce that exposure safely. And that's the thing that people think is impossible. But it's because we collect every transaction that happens on data that we know if we make this change, who would have been impacted by it. Do we need to put them in a group or change that entitlement ever so slightly so that when we revoke that global access, we still preserve the access that was needed? That's really the magic behind it all. So we have companies that have, I just was in the UK last week, big pharmaceutical company. They had remediated 3 million files in their Office 365 environment and did not get a single help desk ticket in the last 6 months. Right? That's a real outcome. Like that's a tangible reduction in the amount of data that was accessed without disrupting their business.
Yeah, so more of a scalpel approach, but if you're really smart,
but if you do it at scale, you can do a lot of, you can do it a lot at once,
like
and you can use
society.
a lot of, exactly, and you can do it with a lot of automation. I also think that, there's this concept of like, well, where do I start? And so one of the reasons I've been at Varonis almost 8 years, and why I like it so much, is we start with an assessment. We'll actually give companies the visibility of where is my data and where is it at risk as a free POC. Because you're going to choose to move forward with us because you want to fix it and you want to monitor this data set all the time. You want 24/7 eyes on your data. You realize it's your most critical asset. And you realize that you don't want findings fatigue. You don't want to buy a product that gives you 50,000 help desk tickets. You want something that actually delivers the remediation to the risks that you find. And that's what we're good at. That's what we're known for.
I was going to ask another question, but I actually think that's probably a great place to leave it, because I think that's probably the punctuation at the end of what Varonis is getting really right? Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you so much. What time is your keynote? Please let everybody know.
It's at 11 o'clock on Wednesday. It's from Gamer to Leader. And some people might say that I'm opening for Magic Johnson, but I'm going to say that that Magic Johnson is closing for me.
I mean, I will buy that. I will tell everybody I know that.
That's awesome, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for being here, Matt.
Yeah, it was great to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
All right, thank you guys so much from RSAC 2025. We are live with theCUBE. This is Jackie McGuire, and we will be back shortly with more news and insights. Thanks, everybody.